John's a friendly kind of guy. You'll be eager to buy. Big John. If you want a car now, we've got selection and how. Good people, good deals. That's the name of this song. For a used car, stop here. See the man they call Big John. Big John.
Big John!
So, learned anything today?
Carl Vogel is a plumber.
I don't know.
In the town of Carrollton, Georgia.
We learned about the wall coming down.
A town where TCI recently introduced cable television to the high school.
Dad?
At first, Carl didn't understand what cable television had to do with education.
I think maybe I might want to go to college.
But if you ask him today...
You think that'd be okay?
Yeah.
He'd say it's a change for the better.
I think maybe that'll be okay.
This is CNN.
This is Newsnight, reporting the events that will shape tomorrow.
Excuse me, we need a new format here.
Hello, I'm Tom Mintier at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Susan Rook. Here are some of the stories coming up. Out of step at a choreographed White House event as Democratic governors take issue with the president.
The prosecution nears the end of its case against Iron Mike Tyson. And a forensic expert wants to use a modern-day technology to answer a century-old question about Lizzie Borden.
We begin tonight in Washington, where Democratic governors took over a White House ceremony railing against the president's plan for economic recovery. President Bush outlined his proposals to breathe new life into the economy before the National Governors Association. The president then asked for the governor's support. Mr. Bush agreed to field questions from the governors after the press was gone. Camera crews turned off their lights. Then Colorado Governor Roy Romer made his plea.
Child care legislation on increased funding for Head Start.
Yeah. Could I ask the press not to leave yet? Excuse me, we need a new format here. I come as a part of a nonpartisan organization, NGA. I'm the incoming chairman, and I think there are a lot of things that we need to discuss with the administration. And unfortunately, this format is not a good one. It's kind of structured. There are assigned questions. But there are things...
anything you want.
Yeah, I think that there are things that we do have a bipartisan program on. And there are some things that we honestly differ, Mr. President.
Governor Romer and President Bush then sparred over the proposed military cut. Mr. Bush wants it to be $50 billion. Romer says others believe it should be $100 billion.
Do you want it to be $100 billion? And if so, what bases do you want to close? What areas do you want to shut down? What weapon systems do you want to knock off right now? Okay. Or do you want to lay off the people? Okay, we've got a program. We're testifying on it every day. Now, I'd like to know what your suggestion is specifically while we have the press here.
Okay, let me answer it. The reason I got into this is that I recognized in your presentation and before the press was to leave was an identification of these governors to go to Congress and argue for the budget message that you made. And I simply am trying to say there's an alternate point of view that ought to be put on the table. And that alternate point of view is, first of all, on the size of the military peace dividend.
Right.
There is a debate whether it's 50 or 100. And I don't know the answer to that because I don't sit in the halls of Congress. But I think that debate ought to go forward.
It is customary for the White House to call the shots on coverage at a White House event. Governor Romer admits he raised his questions in an abrupt fashion, but he says he felt it was important to raise both sides of the issue.
Apparently, an overwhelming number of Americans are not satisfied with President Bush's handling of the sour economy. That's the finding from the latest CNN USA Today Gallup survey. The poll shows 76% of those surveyed disapprove of the president's handling of the economy. In early January, Mr. Bush appeared to be running neck and neck with the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. But when asked how they would vote for him now, Mr. Bush's popularity jumps. 52% of those polled said they would vote for the president. The poll has a margin of error of plus or minus 3 percentage points. Analysts predict the Federal Reserve will leave interest rates alone while waiting to see if the economy will recover. Policymakers meet tomorrow for their first of the year strategy session. They've been taking a wait-and-see approach since last cutting interest rates on December the 20th. Some economists predict the Fed will be forced to ease rates again in the spring if first-quarter reports are dismal.
An agency that oversees the troubled banking industry is being criticized for lavish spending. A House subcommittee report says the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency spent $6.5 million on new and leased furniture when it moved its Washington offices last May. Among the items purchased, Italian marble conference tables, an $11,000 Brazilian cherrywood floor made with wood from a tropical rainforest, and Lenox China service for $16,000. The agency defends the purchases, saying they were aimed at long-term savings.
Japanese Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa is apologizing for his latest controversial comments about U.S. workers. In a speech Monday, he said he suspects Americans lack a work ethic. Now, Mr. Miyazawa says he did not mean to criticize U.S. workers. He said it was a result of a misunderstanding over the use of the word ethic. White House spokesman Arlen Fitzwater said these kinds of comments are probably helpful in terms of stirring the rages in all of us that want to compete. He said President Bush accepted the clarification that Mr. Miyazawa was not talking about all U.S. workers. Others questioned the purpose of the remarks.
I think they're, frankly, very stupid and gratuitous. I think that that it is in the interest of both Japan and the United States to engage in free trade. I think that this bashing by the Japanese of the United States, and specifically of the American worker, is both unfair and it simply exacerbates a bad situation.
The latest comments from Japan come less than 2 weeks after a leader of Japan's parliament called U.S. workers lazy.
Scientists say it is very likely risks of skin cancer and cataracts may increase this winter. NASA scientists issued the alarm after finding the highest ever levels of ozone-destroying chemicals over the northern hemisphere. They say it could cause an ozone hole over the northern U.S., Canada, and Europe. That would allow more of the harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun to strike the Earth. A byproduct from man-made chlorofluorocarbons is being blamed.
They're measuring chlorine in the northern hemisphere at levels higher than they have ever measured in Antarctica. It's an extremely dangerous situation, and to keep putting more chlorine into the atmosphere is madness. We're pouring gasoline on a burning house right now.
An ozone hole has already developed over Antarctica, and health experts in southern Chile believe the increased ultraviolet radiation is contributing factor to increased cases of skin cancer and cataracts there. Still ahead, another woman has unflattering words for Mike Tyson. Just ahead on Newsnight, a beauty pageant contestant compares the boxer to an octopus.
And some creative thieves are caught on camera forcing a bank to deliver some cash.
Kids laugh when I just talk. I hate words. I want to be a writer.
A day across Europe, Asia, and America. 70,000 of the best people on the ground are working to bring you the best service in the sky.
We love to fly and it shows.
Things do go bump in the night. There are boogeymen. Fortunately, Sealy's exclusive Posturepedic sleep system is designed to support everyone differently. More comfortably. To keep your night from becoming your worst nightmare. For a better night's sleep, better sleep on a Sealy.
Ricola, the all-natural herb cough drop imported from Switzerland. Ricola has been soothing throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years.
Good morning.
Are you tired of morning news shows that give you everything but the news?
Big events happening overseas, but first...
Is your pet psychic? We'll find out.
Wake up to headline news for the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
The prosecution in the criminal trial of boxer Mike Tyson is nearing the end of its case. Tyson's trial on charges of rape, confinement, and criminal deviant conduct entered its second week today with testimony from contestants in last year's Miss Black America pageant. Charges against Tyson stem from an alleged attack last summer on an 18-year-old contestant. During today's testimony, one of last year's contestants, Stacey Murphy, testified about Tyson's appearance at a pageant photo session. She said Tyson was, quote, like an octopus, feeling one girl's behind, touching another girl's breast. Murphy testified that the alleged victim told her about being raped. Murphy said, quote, this look said it all. She was so different. She didn't even look like herself. She was like a zombie, like something had totally taken her. The prosecution is expected to finish its presentation tomorrow.
A psychiatrist testified today that serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer knew right from wrong but could not control his actions. Dahmer has pleaded guilty to killing 15 men and boys. The outcome of his sanity trial could determine whether he spends the rest of his life in prison or is sent to a mental institution. The psychiatrist says Dahmer had uncontrollable urges to kill and to have sex with dead bodies.
In Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a self-proclaimed nymphomaniac is not going to be spending time in jail, but her husband will. Kathy Willits was sentenced today to 3 years probation and 400 hours of community service. She and her husband had pled guilty to several counts of prostitution. Jeffrey Willits also pled guilty to videotaping the encounters between his wife and her customers in the Willits home. He was sentenced to 364 days in jail, 15 months house arrest, and 5 years of probation.
A mother and father in Dallas are making an unusual plea to the burglars who broke into their home and stole their video camera. Dan and Heather Cooper say they desperately want the tape that was inside the camera. It chronicles the life of their 3-year-old son since he developed cancer. The tape also shows the youngster at such special occasions as his birthday parties. The parents were at the hospital with their son when burglars broke into the house and stole the tape along with other items.
Jurors in Manuel Noriega's drug trafficking trial are starting to get a different picture of the former Panamanian dictator. His attorneys told the jury today they will show that Noriega was a major ally of the U.S. in its war against cocaine drug smugglers. Members of Noriega's family were in the courtroom as the defense began presenting its evidence. But the first witness may not have helped Noriega's case much. Former head of DEA who had written a letter praising Noriega's cooperation said he wrote it for diplomatic purposes. Peter Bensinger said he was always suspicious of Noriega.
The Haitian government today said refugees sent back to Haiti from the U.S. need not fear persecution. Some 381 Haitians arrived in Port-au-Prince Monday after leaving the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. They are the first group to be taken home since the U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for their return on Friday. The Coast Guard has picked up some 15,000 Haitians since the September coup. The Bush administration denied most of the Haitians political asylum, saying they were fleeing poverty, not political persecution.
Straight ahead on Newsnight, Karen McGinnis takes a look at the weather picture. We'll be right back.
Some said it couldn't be done.
We can see it now! How did they do it?
And while all the others only talked about it,
I'm so happy they did it.
we did it. Introducing the 1992 Toyota Previa. Now the only van that meets all passenger car federal motor vehicle safety standards. Because when it comes to safety, we didn't let anything stop us.
I wasn't due for another 2 weeks. Suddenly there I was, having a cesarean. David was wonderful. And when it was all over, I had this perfect little person. And a lot of pain. Later I was kind of surprised when the doctor gave me Tylenol. With all the other choices they have, but the Tylenol made me feel better. so I could put my mind on more important things.
Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Piloting a corporate jet for Dow can be interesting and rewarding, particularly when it's an Angel flight. The corporate Angel network uses empty seats on company business trips to fly cancer patients who need specialized treatment. Patients like Christy. Dow was the first to make over 100 of these flights.
Welcome aboard, Angel.
This company does great things. This is one of them. Bring your latest output to Pip Printing, and we'll prove to the entire business community that you're doing more on your computer than zapping mutant slimoids from the Zorag Nebula. Pip Printing. Give us a call. We'll show you why we're the biggest business printer in the world.
She was intimate with JFK and the mob. She knew Camelot's back alleys, but Judith Exner says that her real story is still untold. The whole story exclusively on Larry King Live, Tuesday night.
Minneapolis officials are scrambling to continue a new program that could be a victim of its own success. They've been paying $50 for each gun turned into police, no questions asked. Well, the program netted nearly 3,000 weapons in 4 days, mostly handguns, which were the target. Trouble is, all $150,000 raised for the buyback has been spent. Authorities are now looking for more funding. In the words of one official, quote, "This went much quicker than we ever thought it would." Good luck to them.
Quite a shopping spree.
Absolutely.
Well, they need more money.
Speaking of shopping.
Yeah, speaking of shopping, Karen McGinnis has been shopping around looking for all of the weather, and she says there is plenty of different things to go around.
Absolutely. Karen?
Well, it looks like it's going to be a very interesting week because last week was very quiet. Now we've got a lot of activity taking place. We've got an area of low pressure across the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. This is going to be spreading plenty of moisture through the Arklatex over through central and southern Texas. As a matter of fact, one area reported already 3 inches of rainfall, could see 5 by tomorrow morning. This is that kind of weather system, not moving very far or very fast. We've got a snowmaker in store for the eastern Great Lakes and northern New England coming up for tomorrow. This is going to be a brief weather system. And this is the one that may promise a little bit of activity for now the Santa Anas, which are being pushed into Southern California. Well, it may push in the rainfall towards the end of the week. High temperatures, Los Angeles, because of the afternoon Santa Ana breezes. The daytime high temperature there will climb up to close to 80 degrees. San Diego, 75. If you're headed to Denver, 44. Seattle, Portland, another sunny day after about 14 straight days of cloudy skies. Miami, 74. New York, cloudy skies and 39. And it was 59 degrees in Chicago. It's only going to be about 32 for Tuesday afternoon. Well, Tuesday afternoon, here's that swift-moving area of low pressure that will gradually move into the northeast and New England. This is the area of low pressure pumping all the moisture up into the Lone Star State and Louisiana. Tuesday afternoon, that low pressure system moves a little bit further. The west remains mostly quiet, but this is the problem area that we have to watch out for. Wednesday morning, that low pushes out even further. There's not going to be a whole lot of snowfall here, but drive carefully. It's still very much winter time. And speaking of driving carefully across the southeast, some of those roads could be rather slick because the rainfall could be heavy at times. Let's go ahead and show you these forecasts coming up for these cities for Tuesday. CNN's Newsnight continues now with Tom Mintier.
Thank you, Karen. President Bush's plan to overhaul the nation's health insurance system is under fire even before the plan is officially announced. Mr. Bush is expected to announce his proposals Thursday, but administration sources confirm the president will seek to cut federal spending on Medicare and Medicaid to help Americans buy private health insurance. Some lawmakers say deep cuts in Medicaid for the poor or Medicare for the elderly won't make it through Congress. Experts say such a plan could force some health care providers to limit service to Medicare patients.
The FBI will double the number of agents investigating health care fraud, which the government estimates at some $50 billion each year. The Justice Department's announcement of the additional agents appeared calculated to help President Bush spread the message that his administration is concerned about the increasing costs of health care. Meanwhile, a defunct insurance company in Denver has been charged with defrauding customers in 14 states, siphoning off nearly $4 million.
Susan, even though the U.S. economy's pulse is weak, the demand for certain medical professionals continues to be strong. One of the specialists in short supply is the occupational therapist. CNN medical correspondent Jeff Levine has more on the role of these important caregivers.
Maybe tap you or...
Is it possible to teach caring and compassion?
How's the movement in your arms and your hands?
Those who instruct occupational therapy students believe the answer is yes.
We don't just allow people to exist, even though they might be medically stable. We help that person to live again.
It's estimated some 9 million Americans suffering from physical and mental disabilities benefit from occupational therapy. An OT could help a stroke patient learn how to cope with new physical limitations or coordinate a drug rehab effort for someone trying to break the cycle of addiction. These rehabilitation specialists are trained in a 4-year degree program and months of field work.
The occupational therapist is trained in physical rehabilitation and psychosocial rehabilitation. So from that perspective, it's a different health profession.
OTs believe that they can also reduce the nation's swelling medical bill. The services they provide are often an alternative to more expensive kinds of care. According to Department of Labor statistics, occupational therapy is one of the 20 fastest growing professions, and the supply of these versatile caregivers is lagging well behind the demand. As the population ages and medical technology improves, the need for occupational therapists is projected to increase, making the occupation of occupational therapy almost recession-proof.
And since we're only training about 3,000 new people a year, that means that there's going to be an increasing gap between the number of people we have available to put into jobs and the actual number of jobs that are out there.
By the year 2000, it's estimated there will be more than 11 million jobs in health care, up from 3 million in 1988. Physical therapists, physician's assistants, and dietitians are among those expected to be in great demand. It's not unusual for an OT to command a starting salary of $30,000. Those at the top of the profession can make $80,000. But occupational therapy student Lisa Campbell says money isn't the primary motivation.
I think that I'm very good at working with people. I have a love for working with people. I enjoy helping people. Use your right hand, okay, to dress your affected side.
Jeff Levine, CNN, Washington.
News from Medicine is brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb Company, makers of Nuprin. Nup it with Nuprin, the body pain medicine.
It's football time. Your ball, Jim Kelly.
My turn to hurt.
I did it. You can do it.
I can deal with pain, Jimmy.
My doc says ibuprofen for body pain, the medicine in Nuprin.
My trainer, same thing.
So Nup it.
Nup it. Nup it with Nuprin.
Strong stuff.
Just takes one.
Nup it. Football's not so rough.
At least we wear long pants.
For back, joint, or muscle pain,
Nup it.
Nup it.
With Nuprin.
The body pain medicine.
You may not recognize their faces or know all their names, but they've covered politics for every major network and publication. The most distinguished team ever assembled to cover Campaign USA 92, only on CNN.
Research has shown that if you confine an animal in a small space for an extended period of time, he will become an animal. But put him in a big room with comfortable furniture, full kitchen, and a home-like atmosphere, and he'll become almost human. Something to consider on your next extended business trip. Residence Inn by Marriott, the extended stay hotel.
You're right. Starting them off with hot Quaker oatmeal is the right thing to do.
It's the right thing for you, too, you know. You can stand the warming and the nourishment.
Instant Quaker oatmeal.
It's the right thing to do.
Twice the power. That makes a big difference. Professional plumbers on Professional Strength Liquid Plumber.
All the other liquid drain opener is dilute.
This stuff doesn't. It's more powerful. So twice as much power attacks the hair clog, and bam.
Goodbye, clog.
Get twice the power to the clog.
One of my favorite people on this whole planet, Fred Hickman, joins us now.
Bless your heart. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you know what? We're going to talk a little bit about basketball. The All-Star Game's coming up Sunday in Orlando, Florida. And there's a little controversy. One thing about Charles Barkley of the Sixers, the man says what he thinks, no matter what and no matter who it's about. Well, this time, the Sixers All-Star forward says Magic Johnson does not need to be participating in the game this Sunday. Now, as you know, Johnson retired from the Lakers last November after learning he'd contracted the HIV virus. He has since won a starting spot on the Western All-Star squad and has hinted that he might just unretire. Well, today after practice, Barkley said that he thought of calling Johnson to tell him maybe he shouldn't play in Orlando after all. Barkley says it will be a media circus down there because of Johnson's presence, thus ruining the chance of first-time All-Stars to enjoy a little spotlight of their own. Not that Barkley has anything against Magic. I mean, he's the guy who started wearing Johnson's number 32 after the retirement announcement. Anyway, meanwhile, at the IOC meetings, officials reiterated there is no medical reason to prevent Magic Johnson from playing in the Barcelona Summer Games. Prince Alexander de Morode dismisses calling concern over Johnson's decision to play, quote, hysterical reaction to AIDS, end of quote. Now, here's some good news. We hear the phrase, giving something back to the community all too often in sport. But it is something we should never really tire of hearing in our world today. Here's just another example. Bobby Bonilla, recently signed by the New York Mets, has gone back home to the South Bronx, the tough New York neighborhood in which he grew up. And he's not coming empty-handed. In fact, today, standing in front of the elementary, junior, and junior high schools that he and his wife Millie attended, Bonilla announced the start of his public school fund. $500 for each RBI he rings up, the money to purchase baseball equipment for the kids. Gotta like that. Anyway, Ron Hyde is coming up at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 Pacific Time with CNN Sports Late Night. Please watch. He needs the work. And he's got a terrific game to tell you about. The Utah Jazz and Chicago Bulls in double overtime even as we speak. But that's sports to the moment. Here's more news.
All right, Fred, thank you. A high-tech detective is searching the ground where Lizzie Borden's parents were buried in Fall River, Massachusetts. James Starr is using ground radar to locate the skulls. The forensic detective wants to use today's technology to determine if hatchet marks on the skulls match the hatchet believed to have been the murder weapon. The skulls were displayed in Borden's trial for the murder of her parents almost a century ago. She was acquitted of the killings, but a well-known verse still has her giving her mother 40 whacks and her father 41. Starr says it could take a month to analyze his radar pictures.
Well, a couple of crafty crooks ripped off more than just money from a St. Louis bank. The robbers wrapped a huge chain around the downtown automatic teller machine, then ripped the ATM from its foundation using a stolen post office truck. The machine carried $40,000 to $50,000 in cash and a security camera. The FBI is now looking for the two suspects.
I'm sure they are. That's all for Newsnight. I'm Tom Mintier, the CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Susan Rook. Just ahead, our nightly coverage of Inside Politics 92. Stay tuned.
What are you doing?
Well, sweetie, where Mommy works, some people are losing their jobs.
Eric's dad lost his job and they had to move.
Well, this is our home, sweetie, and nothing's gonna make us move. That's why Mommy's starting her own business.
Why?
So you and Mommy can live our lives our own way. Does that scare you?
No, were you scared?
No. Are you?
No, are you?
No.
The fascination always existed. The human body, without doubt, is the greatest of inventions. Flawless in design, capable of astonishing feats. Amazingly, the harder the body is worked, the stronger, more beautiful it becomes. To unlock your body's potential, we proudly offer Soloflex. 32 old-fashioned iron-pumping exercises, each correct in form and balance. All on a machine that fits in the corner of your home. Soloflex, simple and efficient, like the body itself. Which may explain why it looks less like a machine and more like a work of art. For a free brochure, call anytime.
This is CNN.
He spoke of big things, or so he proclaimed, but in our new poll, voters seem to think the Bush speech was no big deal.
Jerry Brown on the stump, urging voters to just say no to the political status quo. But does he have what it takes to get America to kick the Bush habit? Q&A with the candidate on Inside Politics 92.
This is Inside Politics 92 with Bernard Shaw in Washington and Catherine Crier at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
Our in-depth coverage of Campaign 92 just ahead. We turn now to Susan Rook for the latest from the campaign trail.
The nation's governors are meeting in Washington, and tonight, those who are Democrats held a meeting of their own. In the crowd, Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. A new CNN USA Today Gallup poll is giving him a new reason to be pleased with his presidential campaign. The survey shows people are starting to make up their minds about the Democratic presidential candidates, and more are choosing Clinton. Last month, only 17% said they preferred Clinton. Now 42% said they support Clinton. Jerry Brown lost support, and Paul Tsongas picked up a little. In that survey, Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska lost a little support. He's quoted in Newsweek magazine as saying his campaign's first TV commercial, the one with the hockey net and protectionist message, was a mistake.
What's happening in the world economy is like a hockey game, where others guard their goal to keep our products out while we leave our net open.
The magazine quotes Kerrey as saying the hockey ad was a mistake, but it drove his poll numbers down, not up. CNN caught up with Kerrey today and asked him straight up if that was the case.
Playing the hockey ad in New Hampshire, was that a mistake?
No, it's a great ad. It's a little cold, that's the problem.
Were there any other problems you thought in that ad?
Oh, not really.
Kerry's other answer is in the February 10th issue of Newsweek. President Bush had hoped his outline for economic revival would also shore up his drop in the polls, but it has not. CNN's Mary Tillotson has more results of the latest CNN USA Today Gallup survey.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Republican officials billed the President's State of the Union as the defining moment of his three-year-old administration, likened it to a declaration of war on the country's economic problems.
I know we're in hard times, but I know something else. This will not stand.
I think, unfortunately for the president, what got defined is the inadequacy of his response.
In the days just after the speech, CNN, USA Today, and Gallup polled just over 1,000 registered voters. 63% of them said the State of the Union had not boosted their confidence in Mr. Bush's handling of the economy, but had left their confidence level pretty much unchanged. Fewer than half the people questioned, 47%, approved of Mr. Bush's job performance overall. 48% disapproved. On the more pointed question, how he's handling the economy, 76% disapproved. Only 22% approved. 58% said they do not think Mr. Bush's economic program is likely to pull the country out of recession. 33% said they think it likely will work. The Japan trade mission that Mr. Bush said was about jobs, jobs, jobs left voters unimpressed. 58% said they disapprove of Mr. Bush's foreign trade performance. Only 38% approved. There was some consolation for the president. Nearly 3 times as many people blamed Congress for the country's economic troubles as blamed the president.
For so much time, he was saying,
that we weren't in a recession, or we were just about to come out of the recession, and delayed all of this. So it's been a very difficult thing to get the kind of program that we think has to be done in order to get the economy moving.
In tacit acknowledgement, the Bush camp must stop the president's slide in the polls. The top tiers at both the White House and Republican National Committee have been revamped. New White House Chief of Staff Sam Skinner has named Press Secretary Marlin Fitzwater as new communications director. Clayton Yeiter has joined the White House to head domestic policy, and Rich Bond, once a deputy to Lee Atwater, has replaced Yeiter as chairman of the Republican National Committee. The numbers are not all gloom and doom for the president. Just a month ago, our poll showed Mr. Bush in a dead-heat re-election campaign with the unnamed Democratic candidate. This latest poll gives the president nearly a 10-point lead, 52 to 43%. Mary Tillotson, CNN, the White House.
With the New Hampshire economy struggling, a consumer group is taking a political jab at the president.
George Bush lives here, but he says he doesn't. So he doesn't pay Washington income tax. And he says he doesn't live here either. So he doesn't pay income tax in Maine. No, the President of the United States says he lives here, in a hotel, in Texas, where there is no state income tax. And last year, he saved $25,000.
The ad is called Slide. It also takes a swipe at Bush's call for a capital gains tax cut, calling it a wealthy special interest loophole. The spot is sponsored by New Hampshire Citizen Action and airs in New Hampshire beginning tomorrow. I'm Susan Rook. Now back to Catherine Crier and a look at what's ahead on Inside Politics 92.
And the lowdown on Brown next on Inside Politics. Background and banter with his self-confessed political sinner, now preaching the gospel of an election year outsider. No 1-800 number needed to profit from our IP interview.
Oh, that's good. It's hard to say no to a face like this.
That's probably why 1 in every 4 adult dogs is now overweight. And that's why these guys are getting new Alpo Lean. Like regular Alpo, it satisfies their hunger and adult nutritional requirements, but it's lowering calories, fat, and sodium. So it also satisfies all my requirements. Alpo, generations of healthy, happy pets.
Grapefruit juice refreshes.
I can't remember. It was something new.
Nicoderm, nicotine transdermal system.
Yeah, it's called Nicoderm. Oh, yeah, the patch. Nicoderm, huh? Yeah, it's a patch.
Nicoderm, nicotine transdermal system.
55% of business people travel to big cities. That's why we created Holiday Inn Crown Plaza. Big city amenities with Holiday Inn warmth. Stay with someone you know who really knows you.
About Jerry Brown are clear, but one thing is, he's had no problem convincing anyone that he's now a political outsider. From the moment he appeared on the national scene as governor of California, Jerry Brown has been, well, different. We'll talk to Brown in just a moment, but first, Brooks Jackson of our special assignment team on one candidate who prefers the road less traveled.
There's a voice of bitter discontent echoing across the political landscape of New Hampshire in 1992. It's a familiar voice with unfamiliar words.
That's the dirty little secret. They have plenty of money in Washington. They're just misspending it. Out of inertia, out of blindness, out of greed, and out of corruption. And that tells you something is rotten in the state of politics in this country.
How are you?
Great.
Jane Ciccarelli.
Hey, nice to see you. I want you to look at
Lots
this labor rate. The best in the country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Brown is back. Again.
Brown's my name.
Yes, Mr. Brown, I know that.
You do, huh?
How you doing?
He was governor of California for 2 terms.
They may call me a moonbeam, but I fight the guys with the power. Hey, how are you?
He ran for president, 1976 and 1980.
I want to give you a copy of my labor record here.
Now he's running a 3rd time with this year's boldest message. He says today's politicians, Democrats and Republicans, have sold their souls to the moneyed interests that keep them in office.
It's an incumbent protection machine. And I'm here in New Hampshire to give the people a real choice, not a phony choice, bought and paid for by the very people who are causing the misery that drives people into these unemployment offices. And the whole scheme is to have meaningless campaigns with meaningless commercials, so you think it's meaningless and you don't do anything.
Brown speaks with the fervor of a religious convert.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Stu Weiner.
Nice to see you.
Until recently, he was raising millions from wealthy donors for the Democratic Party in California.
Home babies, isn't that a classic? This is a people's campaign. We're challenging the incumbent machine of both parties.
Now, he'll accept only modest contributions.
That's why I'm only taking $100, no more than that.
Okay.
From his childhood, Jerry Brown had conflicting attitudes about politicians, starting with his father, Pat Brown, elected district attorney of San Francisco when Jerry was 4 1/2. Elected governor of California when Jerry was 20.
He was a very affable, outgoing person. And every time we walked into a restaurant, every time we went anywhere, it was always, oh, Pat Brown, the district attorney or the attorney general. And, oh, and here's your son and your daughters. And so we're on stage all the time.
He didn't like it at all. He didn't like being tagged around and shown off, if I could use that expression. And he would show it at times, too.
You need someone who's going to fight the power, whether it's the media, whether it's the big money, the insurance lobby, the medical lobby, I don't care what it is. Unless you're willing to fight those people, nothing will change.
On the campaign trail, Brown talks mostly about ideas, revealing little of a personal nature. At first, Brown rejected political life entirely, honoring a vow of silence in a Jesuit seminary, studying to be a priest.
And the reason I did was I've always had a deep longing for spirituality, for understanding the meaning of life, for finding out what is the real inner essence of things. You know, what really is life all about? That's always been my quest.
But the excitement of politics and power was too strong. Brown says he loved being governor. He cut taxes, strengthened environmental laws. Many said he brought excellence into government. Eventually, though, California voters grew tired of him.
You can say about a lot of politicians that they're inconsistent or they're wishy-washy, but within Jerry Brown, those kinds of actions went to the extreme. For example, in Prop 13, in a matter of weeks, he went from a loud opponent of Prop 13 to a firm supporter of it.
People get tired of my voice, they get tired of seeing me on television.
Defeated for the Senate in 1982, Brown left politics.
I shall return, and I hope you're in return.
Never married, he resumed his pilgrimage of the spirit. Mexico, Japan, 6 months studying Zen philosophy. India to discover how Mother Teresa, as Brown put it,
in the face of overwhelming poverty, could still have the joy and the wholehearted commitment that I saw in Mother Teresa and the missionaries of charity and the volunteers that joined them. And every day, I'd help people, feed them, give them medicine, cut their hair, bathe them. Some of them were not able to take a bath. They were too far gone. And every day somebody would die.
Gladys, meet Jerry Brown.
Jerry Brown, I love seeing you on TV.
You did?
Yes. I hope you win.
Thanks. That's almost an endorsement, isn't it?
It's almost an endorsement.
It is an endorsement. Thank you.
Okay.
always Jerry Brown follows his own path. Intense, self-confident, he perplexes more traditional politicians.
Hello there. Hi, how you doing? My name's a little story in the Union Leader. Did you see it? On the third page.
To some, arrogant. To others, driven to do the right thing by real concern about issues.
He would call me at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to talk about some of these issues when he was into them, when he felt that things weren't going right.
Today, as you sit in convention, over half of the American people have seceded from their political democracy. They're not voting.
As party chairman, Brown says he tried to build a grassroots organization with money. But despite the millions spent by the party and its candidates, California Democrats lost big in 1990.
And we'd spent $33 million. So the party professionals looked around, they said, well, Brown didn't raise enough money. I thought to myself, wait a minute here. $33 million? No, that wasn't the problem. The problem is we're not standing for something. Because you know, all campaigns are about getting $1,000 contributions. That's what they are. And I would just wonder how many people in this room have never given $1,000 to a politician. I'd like you to raise your hand. If you never gave...
So once again, Jerry Brown is renouncing traditional politics, even as he runs for president.
99% of the people have not. Politicians are totally dependent on a wealthy elite to get the money to get on television.
Condemning the money game he once played himself. Rejecting old alliances. A risky message.
There is a very heavy penalty for telling the truth about what's going on in politics today. It's you're ostracized, that you're basically walking out of this tight little club that is controlling America.
Most people agree with Brown's anti-political message, but it may be hard for them to see this former political fundraiser as a trustworthy messenger. And perhaps harder still for voters to embrace such an unconventional pilgrim as their president. Brooks Jackson, CNN Special Assignment.
And joining us now from New Hampshire, Manchester specifically, the former governor of California. Jerry Brown, first question, are you a politician?
Well, I'm sure if I'm not, sure got myself in a funny position here.
I ask you the question because you denounced the people in the process. How do you explain your convenient conversion from being a politician who took big money to a politician who says now he'll only take little money? It's still money, the juice of politics.
Yeah, because it doesn't work. I've been around this business 20 years, and I've seen an increasing failure, hardship, suffering, growing cynicism. I started out as a political reformer, and I passed an initiative to present it to the people of California, which they then voted for by over 70%, to cut campaign spending, control lobbyists, and part of it was struck down by the Supreme Court. At the same time, I went along and I did raise substantial sums of money to get elected. What I find out is that after I left in 1982, from a $5 million campaign for the Senate, Alan Cranston had to spend $18 million. Our candidate for governor needed over $20 million.
But you still...
Yeah?
You still accept the label of being a politician, right?
Yeah, I'm in this political business to try to offer real change. And I'm trying to use my experience and my battle scars and my mistakes as something that I can share with the American people and turn it to their advantage.
Let's go to the numbers. The latest CNN USA Today Gallup poll shows you dropping from 21 to 16% in national polling. Why?
Why? Because I'm not getting the coverage and I'm not buying the commercials. Mr. Clinton has been in almost every paper every day for 2 months. That has to boost you up. But I don't lose heart from that, because what I'm doing is I'm building a political movement that will offer a real choice, and not just another empty campaign with rhetoric, with no hope of fundamental change. And I know what I'm offering today is what the American people really want.
President Bush's health plan is being outlined in today's New York Times. It talks about basic financing from cutting back the growth of government health programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. How would you finance your health plan? And specifically, what is it?
Very simply, I'd ration greed, not need. Now, what I mean by that is to set up a single-payer system so that you have one purchaser of medical services, salaries, equipment, and drugs, and you can get a handle on it.
Price tag.
Price tag, it was $800 billion this year, and if I had a single-payer system, you could crank that down so it didn't increase any more than 4% a year. And that would save, on average, about $25 billion every year. And out of that saving, you could finance a universal system. That's just that simple. And the reason why it doesn't happen is because the medical and insurance interests, the drug companies, give at least $30 million every 2 years to the Congress to keep it the way it is. It's just that simple.
How does the American voter touch you, feel you, know who you are? For example, I was wondering about an hour ago, do you really expect your party to nominate you when, for example, you're not either a husband or father?
Sure, I expect them to nominate me because I've got a message and also I've got the experience. I've grown up in a political family, and I can tell you whether you are married or you have children, I don't think that really determines what you do in the governor's office, in the Senate, or in the White House. People want to know, is there any way to turn this system around so it works for them and not for a greedy elite that's got it under its fingertips?
For the Jerry Brown campaign, what do you think you would have to get in terms of numbers in New Hampshire to have your campaign vindicated?
Well, I'd like to get as much as I could. I'd like to win in Maine. I'd like to go down to the South. I'd like to challenge Clinton because I think it's an empty campaign, and whoever else is going to be the leader. I really think the money is wrecking our party, which is a party to represent the unrepresented, to give a voice to the voiceless. And when you go to the $1,000 givers and build a whole political campaign on that, you just can't speak for the people.
Are you trying to do a job on Bill Clinton? Towards the end of the debate Friday night, you alluded to what you consider to be the character issue. And today, on the radio program, you raised the specter of Governor Clinton having lied. You very skillfully said, I don't know whether you call it a lie about the Senate voting for a pay raise. Are you trying to do a job on him?
No, I'm telling you, I listened to the debate, and I listened to when Mr. Kerry said, well, Bill, when you did an ad against the pay raise, isn't it true that you had congratulated one of the congressmen for the pay raise? And I frankly didn't believe Clinton's response. I don't see how you can congratulate a congressman for raising his pay $40,000, but not really support the raising of that pay. And that was totally contradictory to the ad that Bill Clinton ran against Senators Kerry and Harkin.
Now,
so that's all, and I think that's a very legitimate issue, Bernie. We have this campaign is being run by a lot of empty newspaper stories and TV ads that are flooding the airwaves up here that are paid by people that don't live in New Hampshire.
Last question.
They're living in other places and they have special interests, and I'm pointing that out, and I think it's a real service.
Your campaign is serious, but how do you avoid the moonbeam tag?
Well, by just responding that I've got the record. We lowered taxes. We created more jobs than the rest of the country, more jobs than George Bush did for the country, and we made California a world leader in energy, in conservation, and in new jobs. That's precisely what this country needs. And coming out of a state that is the 8th largest economy in the world, I've got not only the experience, but I'm standing on a platform of reform, of honesty. I've got the only tax plan that makes any sense, and I want the American people just to listen, look at each candidate, and then make up their mind.
Well, we thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we'll catch up to you on the campaign trail. Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you.
Catherine and I will be back with more of Inside Politics 92 in just a moment.
Oh, no. My hair's not only going gray, now it's getting thinner. I wish they made something for gray, thinning hair.
They have. Grecian Plus. Grecian Plus is a fresh-smelling foam that gradually brings back natural-looking color, the famous Grecian way. But this Grecian has a big plus. It builds body for healthier, fuller-looking hair.
Your hair looks great. Feels thicker, too.
Grecian Plus, the total treatment for gray, thinning hair.
On CNN tomorrow, what changes can you make in your life to help prevent heart disease? On Morning News. Then on Crier and Company, he makes his living fighting fair. But how will the court treat Mike Tyson? All tomorrow on CNN.
Before we made a driver's minivan airbag standard in the Plymouth Voyager and the Dodge Caravan, we tested it. We did the same with our available all-wheel drive and ABS brakes. And now, for 1992, Chrysler introduces the world's first built-in fold-away child seat. And for this latest achievement, we'd like to thank all the little people who made it possible.
Here's an opportunity to receive a free copy of William F. Buckley's historic Agenda for the 90s.
When you get National Review, you'll have news and opinion you can't find anywhere else. A National Review gives you insights into current events and information about important issues from a decidedly different set of priorities.
Call this toll-free number now and we'll send you absolutely free Agenda for the 90s. For a trial subscription to National Review, call 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257.
To Alaska. It's more than a cruise. It's the Love Boat.
I got the job.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, who told you about the National Business Employment Weekly? Who told you it has hundreds of high-paying jobs open all across the country? Professional, technical, managerial.
I thought I told you about it. How the articles help you get a job. Write sharper resumes. Have better interviews.
No. I told you, remember? How to get along with your boss, get a raise, get promoted.
Let me see. You told me about the great jobs in the National Business Employment Weekly.
And the help in landing them. And doing better on the job.
So I really owe my new job to you?
Well.
Thank you, sweetheart. I told him.
Get the National Business Employment Weekly at your newsstand or order by credit card and get 8 issues by first-class mail for $35. Call 800-527-7100. 800-527-7100. The National Business Employment Weekly.
Don't make a career move without it.
Shop for quality gifts with your free Turner Store catalog. Call 1-404-827-2500.
Forget the polls, throw out the predictions, and listen up. Here's some numbers from the Associated Press that really count. 70 members of the Democratic National Committee. Now, these are the people who will be real delegates at the Democratic Convention, say they will vote to nominate Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. 23 are for Tom Harkin, 15 go for Bob Kerrey. Jerry Brown, Paul Tsongas, and Mario Cuomo have the support of 2 each, and 178 are still undecided. And tomorrow, join us for a talk with Republican presidential candidate Pat Buchanan. That's it for Inside Politics 92. I'm Catherine Crier in Atlanta.
And I'm Bernard Shaw in Washington. Thanks very much for watching.
When it comes to education, only one news program designed specifically for use in schools earns overwhelming support from teaching associations, parents working with schools, and key academic administrators. In fact, leading educators across America endorse the one TV program teaching children about the real world, CNN Newsroom. Find out how cable is working in America's classrooms. Call 1-800-3